Let's move on to practice 3-2, creating a RAC database. And this time, we will create RAC database only in the hub node. And even though we installed the RAC database software in the leaf node, and in this practice, we will only focus on the creating database through hub node. And later on, we will create read-only instances through leaf node. So let's go through. In this practice, you will create a RAC database in the hub node, open a terminal window on your DNS node, and connect to host share 1 as your Oracle user account and set environment variable. So I will start up one terminal, and then I will use SSH-X host 01, and then I provide the password. And then I will type export. And since we have 2 lines of code in the OS prompt, and when you copy both lines, and this will copy only first line. So at the OS level, OS prompt, you will have to copy line by line. And I'm setting Oracle Home, and I will update path. And then what I'm going to do is I will create a server pool called ORCLDB. Make sure you leave space correctly. So in this example, I'm creating server pool named ORCLDB. At the maximum, we can add up to 3 servers, and especially 3 hub nodes. And that's meaning of srvctl command. And I created one server pool. Now this time, I will use DBCA to create database. Especially, I will create database on server pool, and that's a policy-based database. I started the DBCA. I'm going to move on to next step. And in the database operation page, you choose a database, create database option. And in the step number 5, select database creation mode page, and we will choose advanced configuration option. So that way we have more flexibility and we have more options available. And then step number 6, make sure you create RAC database. And instead of creating admin manage the database, create policy manage the database. And policy manage the database, it is to create database on the server pool, so your database can be managed dynamically. And I will choose a general purpose transaction processing template. And step number 7, since we already created ORCLDB with a maximum cardinality 3, and it's only to group hub nodes, so I'm planning to create my RAC database in the ORCL server pool for policy managed database. And we had a discussion of a policy managed versus admin managed database. And we will create ORCL database, and you follow instruction. Do not accept default database name, which include domain name. So we use ORCL as a database name. At this time, we're not going to create a multi-tenant database. So we will create database with a standard architecture. And later on, we will have a time to discuss multi-tenant database. And once we discuss multi-tenant container database, then we will create a multi-tenant database using DBCA. So at this point, we will create standard database with a standard architecture. And step number 9, you choose a database location. And I just highlighted here, your database location must be data disk group. But since the management ASM disk group has more space, DBCA suggested a management ASM disk group. But we created the ASM disk group, which named the data to store database files. So do not accept default value. Instead, use a data ASM disk group. And we use OMF. And then we will use FRA. So we create faster recovery. We choose a faster recovery area as a default backup location. And what we're gonna do is, in this location, I will choose this option. And then it is FRA. Let me actually make it a little bit smaller. 7800. Does it work? Let me see. Click next. Okay, it works. So minimum space. And let's make it a little bit smaller than this. Let me actually change it to maybe 5,000. And it checked the minimum. Okay, so a minimum. But actually, when you set it to a very small size, and you will get the error message because of a minimum required faster recovery area size. So I will keep it 8100. Just like instruction here. And on the select Oracle Data Vault config option page, and we're not gonna choose the security options. So I'm gonna move on to next page. And then you choose automatic shared memory management to manage SGA automatically. And then you move this bar down to around 3,000. So you will have about 2,300 and 768, about same as this. So as long as you adjust total size around 3,000 megabytes, and then that's more than enough for practice activity. And also in the sample schema page, and choose add the sample schemas for practice activity. And in the next page, you will get one, you may get one message, but this time we didn't get it. But sometimes you will get this message. For policy manage the database instance may come up on local node depending on node availability. And sample schema on the local node will be configured only when database instance comes up on the local node. So that is for your information. So just keep this information. And also to save some resource and space, and we're gonna disable cluster verify utility clusterware resource. And it checks your database configuration over the time by comparing with the best practices. And for practice activity, we don't need it, so I will uncheck this. But we will use Enterprise Manager for practice activity. So we choose this option. And we're gonna enter password for administrative users, Oracle_4U, Oracle_4 uppercase U. If you're not clear, if you don't remember, just go back to course practice environment security credential page. So by doing so, you can view all passwords for users and OS account. And step number 17, and we have a create database option. And you also have other options as well. You can generate database creation script based on information you entered. And you can also customize the storage location. You may want to change init parameter settings. And since this practice is to create database, I will click next to check prerequisite. And once this step is done, and you will see summary page, finally you click finish button to create database. Again, I'm creating policy managed database only in the server pool across all hub node. and your DB name is not orcl.example.com, we only use orcl as a DB name, so you will have to rename it based on instruction. So database name is orcl, and FRA location is a plus FRA ASM disco group, and we added the size up to the 8100 megabytes for FRA, and you spend some time to review it. So we we entered all this information, and once you reviewed, click finish. So wait a few moments, and then you will see progress bar, and it will take around 20 minutes to complete this step. So at this point, you don't see a progress bar, so you have to wait for a few moments, and eventually you will see a progress bar. So even though you don't see progress bar in the first 30 seconds, don't worry about that. Eventually, you will see the progress bar. Okay, so in the first step is copying database files. So we already started database creation, and you can watch this. It takes about 20 minutes. I'm not going to actually watch this database creation because it takes about 20 minutes. So you manage your time for 20 minutes instead of watching, and you can review or preview practice activities, or you can review the lesson note, and then come back to this practice session in 20 minutes, and then we can continue. So I will pause this session for a minute, and I will resume to complete the rest of the steps. Okay, so finally, I have a finish page, and let's see what is the next instruction. On the finish page, click password management button. So that's password management button. And for HR user, we will have to unlock this HR user and change the password. And password is available in the security credential page. So I will go down here. We have HR. So I will unlock this user account. And password is simply HR in lowercase. So I will click OK. And I will move on. And you will continue. And then click close to dismiss DBCA. So we'll click close. And then next step, we will check database status. Now, since my database is a policy managed database, the instance number doesn't match with the host number. It makes sense. And another thing what you may want to do is you can use verbose option. So that way you can see instance status as well. And ORCL1, ORCL2, ORCL3, these are all in open mode and open status. And you can also check configuration of ORCL database, and it will show you your database configuration type at the end of this output. As you can see, it is a policy managed database. That's why your instance location doesn't match with host name number. And so you can use srvctl status database command to locate instance location. Okay, so that's for the practice 3-2.